Hello, everyone. Welcome to Relationship Talk with Sharonda. It is a great Monday. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And today's topic is why is the hinge important? So this will be a poly live. I always tell people the world is set up to where we see monogamy all the time. So when monogamous couples have issues or need kind of help figuring certain stuff out, a lot of times they can go to other monogamous couples, they can go to the church, they can go to counselors. They have all these different avenues and resources where they can get the help that they need. But being that poly is so secretive for a lot of people, like, don't get me wrong, you have a lot of couples that are living poly lifestyles, but they're not literally on the forefront with it. And a lot of times poly couples, we learn through trial and error because we don't have a lot of resources that exist to be able to tell us easier ways to do it. Or when you have a situation like this, what do you do to work through the kinks, or so on and so forth. Poly couples just don't, most poly couples don't have another poly couple they can go to and say, how do we handle this, or how do we deal with this? Or have you ever dealt with something like this before? So today's topic is going to be about why the hinge is important. The hinge is one of the most important roles that one can have. And a hinge does not necessarily have to be a male. A hinge can be a female as well. And basically the hinge is the person that is connecting the people together in the dynamic. Normally the hinge is the common denominator, okay? So when you are a hinge, you do have a different set of responsibilities. You really have to be a person that's going to be high energy, because you're going to have to basically take two relationships, because you is one you, and you could two or more relationships. Let me say that, because it could be more than two or more relationships, right? And you're going to have to literally feed and nurture every last one of those relationships to give everybody what they need, and it's one you, right? That can present itself to be a problem. I don't know if you all watched the show Sister Wives before, but Cody had 4 wives, and it was one him, and eventually it became a huge problem with him trying to be present in all of these households, right? So let's talk about the hinge and some of the things that we can do to ensure we have success in this relationship dynamic, right? First of all, the hinge has to be able to operate with open, honest, clear communication. Y'all, this is huge. First of all, let me say this. I've been dealing with relationships for a very long time, meaning different couples on the poly side and the monogamous side. And one thing that I have found is a lot of times, and this is no shade to men, but men are not great communicators. Men don't really like to talk. When you get couples in front of you, it's normally the woman that's chatty, that's doing all of the talking. Well, in this dynamic, when you have a hinge, most times the hinge is a man. A lot of times he's having to be the one that's communicating with everybody across the board, making sure that they're getting all the information properly. How do we make sure we get the information properly? We have to answer a few questions. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. We need to be able to answer that for everybody across the board, and it has to look the same for everybody so that everybody's getting the correct information. Who going? What are we doing? Why are we doing it? Where are we going? Why are we going? Like, you have to be able to answer that for everybody. And sometimes in situations, you may have a partner, and I'm trying to keep from using male-female terms, but sometimes you will have a partner that will come along and help you hinge it, meaning that they will be the mouth or they will be the voice, and they will come along and literally be the one to make sure that everybody's being communicated with. A lot of times you'll see that when you have a person that has a dynamic where there's a primary and then there are other people that are involved. I'm going to use it for an example. Suppose there's something planned going on and the hinge really desires everybody to be there, right? Well, a lot of times he'll tell his primary, get with everybody and make sure they be there. And the primary is going to say, hey, this is what's going on. This is what color we're wearing. This is what time we're meeting. This is where the location that we're meeting. Do you want to ride with us, or are you going to drive yourself? In other words, the primary is going to orchestrate all of this stuff to whereas she's basically helping her man hinge the dynamic. She's the voice more so, and she's operating as the hinge for the dynamic because he's asked her to step in and assist. Because a lot of times men are just not great communicators. Great communication leaves room for no one to assume anything. I'm not one that makes assumptions. If y'all ever read the book The 4 Agreements, I urge everybody to read the book The 4 Agreements because it's literally the lifestyle that I live. I don't make assumptions about anything. I literally allow you to communicate exactly what's going on so that I don't have to assume anything. And if you put me in a situation to where I feel like I'm not sure, that means that now I have to start talking and I have to start asking questions because you haven't communicated clearly and I don't want to make an assumption, okay? Another thing that a hinge would have to do is they would have to create a schedule. Why are schedules important? Because you got so many moving parts when you're dealing with multiples in a dynamic. Meaning, I need to know what your schedule look like. I need to know what your schedule look like. I need to know what yours look like. I need to know what mine look like. And that way I can know where I need to be and who. Why am I scheduling to be with you on Monday and Tuesday when you're at work on Monday and Tuesday? I don't need to be over here with you on Monday and Tuesday. You already got something going on. Okay, you're available Monday and Tuesday. This week I need to be over here Monday and Tuesday. Okay, this week I need to be over here Wednesday and Thursday. I need to be over here Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Or however it is that you want to do it. But that way, everybody is getting what they need. And I'm saying this because I'm talking about a person that operates in multiples. And keep in mind, when you're operating in multiples, I'm not saying that jealousy does not exist. I'm not saying that neglect does not exist. Because I have actually seen a dynamic where neglect ended up happening because too much time was being put in one situation over another. And we don't want that to happen. One thing that I'm always asking Daddy is everybody getting what they need? Whenever we're sitting down and we're talking, because we have an open dynamic, I'm always concerned that the other people involved, are they getting what they need? I'm always asking that question. How are you doing balancing this? Are you balancing this well? Is everybody getting what they need? Some people don't even know that I'm always on the end trying to make sure that everybody's getting what they need. Of course, I want to make sure that my needs get met as well, but I also want to make sure that everyone else's needs get met because I understand when other people's needs are not being met, that's when trouble starts to arise and things become chaotic, and you don't want that, okay? The next thing, the hinge has to understand the purpose of everybody that they have in the polycule. You have to understand everyone's strengths and weaknesses. You don't need people in the polycule with the same personalities, with the same strengths, with the same weaknesses. You might as well just have one person if that's the case. The whole beauty of it is to have people that are all different, that are bringing something different to the dynamic. That's the beauty of it. In other words, like for myself, I'm a natural nurturer. I have to have something or someone to take care of. That's just who I am. I love to cook. I love to cater. I love to nurture. I love to watch things grow and develop. That is who I am. Well, on the flip side, I'm also a fun person. I'm outgoing and all of this kind of stuff, right? Okay, you may have another person in the dynamic, whereas they may be like some type of pain slut, where they like, all this adventurous, more kinky type of sex, a lot of rough play, big toys, all of this kind of stuff. Well, me over here, I'm a natural nurturer. That may not be my thing, but I'm not saying that particular desire doesn't need to be met. Yeah, that desire needs to be met, right? And then you may have another person that's a part of the dynamic that exists for a whole nother purpose that, I can't think of one off the top of my head. But they don't have nothing to do with nurturing. They don't have anything to do with being a pain slut, but they serve a completely different purpose. But only the hinge will know what each person is bringing to the dynamic and why each person is beneficial to not only himself, but to the dynamic as a whole, right? I always say, when you bring people into the dynamic, they should be beneficial for everybody. It shouldn't just be beneficial for the hinge. Meaning that, Is this an opportunity for us to all be able to network in some type of way? Do you have a business? Because I have a business. Is there any type of way that I can help you with your business? Is there any type of way that you can help me with mine? Is there anything that we can do to help him with his? Those are the type of questions those are the type of questions that we want to be able to answer. Like, what are we doing here? And if y'all are a part of this dynamic, what are we actually building here, right? The Hinge has the responsibility to make sure that each relationship is healthy. Sometimes you may have one person in the dynamic that is more needy at one point in time than another. For example, I'm just going to use myself for an example. April 5th is always hard for me. That is the day that my mom died. I was blessed to have great friends this year to come through and support me. And every last one of my friends poured in me in some type of way, right? My primary romantic partner was busy working 2 jobs that day. They were literally not available, right? However, I had all of these other people to be able to come through and give me what I needed, right? And it's no hard feelings to my romantic partner who was not able to be available only because they had to work 2 jobs that day, right? I'm saying that to say sometimes the people in the dynamic have their own stuff going on, and sometimes they need to pull from you a little bit more. So what happens even when the Hinge is not available? Well, guess what? He's not available, but we're all here. And now we can step in and we can be that support when he can't be that support. We can support you emotionally. We can support you spiritually. It's different things that we can do to let you know that we are here and we are present, right? That is the way to make sure that everybody's getting what they need. Yes, the Hinge may not always be able to come through, but the Hinge can delegate responsibility and say, look, I ain't gonna be able to make it over there, but I need you to go over there and check on this person. I need you to go over there and do this. I need you to go over there and order some food and take it over there. Like, I need you to be present for this person because I got other stuff going on and I can't be. That's the type of stuff that a good Hinge will do. Another thing is the Hinge has to remain flexible. Why would a Hinge need to be flexible? Because what's working today, in this month, 6 months from now, it may not even be working. And that means that we got to come back to the drawing board and we got to look at this all over again to see what we need to do to work out the kinks to make it work. There's never a one and done. The Hinge has to be a good listener because he has to be able to listen to all of the people that's involved in this dynamic to make sure that everybody is getting what they need. And he can't just be selfish, or he or she can't be selfish and just say, oh, as long as my needs are met, I don't care about everybody else. No. Everybody needs is a priority. When you're with this person, their needs is a priority. When you're this person, their needs is a priority. When you're over here, their need is a priority. So just understand, people, men and women, when you're deciding to hinge a situation, you have to be prepared to be willing to work. You have to be willing to communicate, and you have to be extremely flexible. But again, what I have noticed in these dynamics of poly and monogamy, the communication is the breaking point. And what happens is when the communication is not the way it's supposed to be, it leaves a lot of room for uncertainty, jealousy, insecurity, and neglect. All because the communication is not where it needs to be. As adults, we can all come together. We can all be in the same space. One person doesn't have to, like, for example, I'm one of the people, I'm not an extremely needy person. I'm just not. So I don't necessarily care if time and attention is being given somewhere else, right? As long as when I do need something, I'm getting what I need. But the Hinge has to know the personality of the people that they're dealing with as well. Who's more needy? Who's more bratty? Who's going to throw a tantrum? Who's going to be able to, be more self-sufficient? The Hinge has to know all of that, right? So I don't necessarily envy the position of the Hinge at all, because that position literally draws so much out of one individual person because they're pouring into so many people. So I know a lot of people, they fantasize about the poly dynamic, but the poly dynamic is a lot of work, and it consists of a lot more than just sex. Because believe it or not, a lot of us don't interact sexually with one another. You ain't never hear me. It took me so long to find a picture this morning for my blog because all of the pictures had the women interacting with each other in an intimate way. That's not the basis of my dynamic. I'm not intimate with other women. I'm intimate with my man. I have other relationships with other people that are non-sexual. So when you look at it, most people, they want to try to throw everybody in this whole sexual pool, and that's not necessarily the case. A lot of times we're getting a lot more from these relationships other than sex. Okay? That is going to wrap me up for today. Of course, I'm here at the store. I had an awesome weekend. Friday night, I went out with my baby mama, Orel. We actually went and had, we had a superb dinner, child. Had drinks, and then I took her to the cigar bar because she never been to the cigar bar, so she wanted to go check that out. Saturday, I had a party to do, a bachelorette party. It was so lit. I enjoyed myself. Y'all, I love having a microphone in my hand. I love hosting. And Sunday, I got up and I exercised. I cooked for Daddy. And then LSU Q's crossed yesterday, so I went to their probate with my best friend. And of course, I met my man out there because he worked with the line. He was an advisor, so I met him out there, and of course we partied until it was time to basically shut it down. So I had an awesome weekend. I got some great news this weekend. My kids are doing great. Everybody's doing great, and I'm happy. So, and Obama have some puppies, y'all. Obama and Emerald had puppies. Somebody else, I gave all my dogs to somebody else, and they're actually breeding them. So we actually have puppies, child. I'm a grandmother. All right, y'all. Y'all be blessed. Y'all have a wonderful day.